Morning.
Good morning and welcome to another video, another cruise.
Another cruise with the sun up that way, backlighting a cloud, making it kind of uncomfortable to look at these things. How you doing? We're doing okay. Other than
the fact that Michael's being really cruel this morning.
I'm not being cruel. There was an evening visit by a group of younger children, not younger,
teenagers.
Young teenagers. Who were perfectly fine, but we're just doing that loud, yelly thing.
Talking about
before
absolute...
they learn how to, talking about absolute bollocks.
They were only here for about an hour, so it wasn't too bad, but that hour was like quite annoying.
Yeah, and they left a bunch of garbage out there.
Which was more annoying.
Yeah, and some graffiti and stuff. So, good fun they were having.
We're in Burwell, probably should have mentioned that,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the Burwell Lode.
Yes.
Morning. Michael.
Yeah, Burwell's actually really quite nice.
I mean,
it's funny.
You walked in.
Yeah, you didn't go in, but when we got to Reach, the fellow there was like, "Oh, Burwell's not really that nice." And then we get here, and it's really nice around the area where the mooring is. So I walk into town. It's quite a pleasant town. And in fact, some of the people that I met were hugely friendly.
Yeah.
It was just in fact, I got invited to a house and everything. So thank you for that if you ever end up watching this. But yeah, no, it's quite a pleasant little town, and there's a co-op not too far away.
There's two co-ops here.
Well, I got to one of them, and yeah, it was quite convenient. So, and there's horse fields nearby and a place for George to play. So it's been good fun.
Yeah, and
but today, to the Wicken Lode.
Yeah, everyone says it's the best one. So it'll be interesting to see what we think, because we found these two absolutely stunning. So.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if we even make it up there, though, because, well, two things. One is there's a quite sharp turn with not a lot of room to get under the, what they call cocked bridge, a very high-angle bridge, which means there's plenty of headroom to get through, but I'm going to have to do kind of a funky 90-degree thing with a lot of reeds around. And then the reed has grown in so much on both Burwell and Reach that you get kind of a feeling of really being compressed, because you were walking along on the berm and I was looking sideways and realizing that there was about 8 feet of reed in places between us and the wall that you were walking on.
Yeah.
So it's really grown in. Now the Burwell Road is plenty wide enough to travel along, but on the Reach I couldn't quite see how far away the walls were. But if there's...
It means the banks, it's not actual walls.
The banks, yeah. Well, no, this one actually has a wall. There's
does it?
Yeah, there's like a big metal sheeting thing in places along it. But yeah, so it's just, if there's that much reed growing in on these two, then how much might have grown down the Wicken? Luckily, the Wicken is the one that people apparently go up all the time, so hopefully...
And it's quite short, and at the end is Wicken Fen, which is a National Trust nature reserve, I think.
Yeah.
And there's also a trip boat that comes down.
Well, at the end for us is Monk's Junction, where the Monk's Lode joins the Wicken Lode.
And then there's another lode.
And then there's a small lode that goes further to Wicken Fen, where there's the actual National Trust property and everything. We can't go up that, but we can moor there and walk up that. We just can't take the boat up that way. In the actual bylaws and everything, it's like there's this whole section. It's like, this is what you can do. This is what you can do. Here's where you can. Dogs, barbecues, everything. There's this huge set of rules. And, you get to this one point where it says, and also, no one, except for locals, can go up this area without a big fine. So...
We don't want that.
Yeah.
So there's a go-boom mooring there, so hopefully we can get on there.
Yeah, should be no problem. The only thing that I've seen a couple of descriptions that have said that the turning point can be a bit of a problem if somebody's moored there and they've positioned their boat in the wrong place. So we'll find out.
And if we
make it that far.
If you can't make the turn, you'll have to go down the lock, up where? Turn around and come back.
Yeah.
George,
I'm sure I can make the
where
turn.
are you going?
George!
Let's go.
We're on our way.
Georgie? George and I decided to take the footpath again as we really enjoyed our walk yesterday. The scenery here is just wonderful, and you can actually see much more from the land than you can from the boat, and there's a lot of views worth seeing.
ready.
We're going to travel about 2.5 miles from here to the junction, and then another 1.5 miles along Wicken Lode. This is the most urban part of the 3 lodes, and actually it's just one huge warehouse. I think it's on the site of an old brickworks and quarry, but I'm not entirely sure. For anyone who hasn't seen the previous video, we're currently exploring the Cambridgeshire Lodes, which are navigable man-made waterways believed to have been built in Roman times for land drainage and for transportation. By Priory Farm there's a lift bridge, and both times we've passed it we've found it open, which makes life much easier for us. Burwell Lode runs right through the Wicken Fen Nature Reserve, which is made up of wet grassland, scrub woodland and reed beds, making it the perfect home for an abundance of wildlife, including an introduced herd of primitive conic ponies. We're so lucky to see them when we passed today. I've walked ahead, and while I'm waiting at the junction with the Wicken Lode, I find this little critter hanging out on a discarded tyre. Honestly, it's a bit weird to find a tyre here, as there's no roads close by, but the lizard seems happy enough sunbathing on the rubber. As we're making the turn at the junction, the boat's propeller hits something in the water. Looking down, Michael sees a pike floating on the surface. He brings the boat to a stop to see if there's anything he can do to help it. Using the end of our boat hook, Michael nudges the poor fish towards the boat. and after a quick examination he returns it to the water. There's no obvious injuries, so hopefully it'll recover. So it was a pike, I think, that Michael pulled out of the river that he'd hit with the prop, and there was a bit of a dilemma as to what to do because it was possibly just stunned. Michael couldn't see any injuries, so he didn't want to put it out of its misery if it was just stunned and was going to recover, but then if it wasn't going to recover, didn't want to leave it there dying. So yeah, he's pretty down because he hates things like that, obviously. Poor fish. It's about 1.5 miles from the junction to the end of the navigation where the moorings are, and as a walker, this Lode feels very different. It's much busier. In fact, I barely saw another soul on the other 2 Lodes, but on this one there's lots of dog walkers out and about. There was once about 750 windmills on the 3 Bedford levels, and the drainage windmill at Wicken Fen is the only one that's survived. You almost definitely can't see it. I'll try and point it out with an arrow, but I've just spotted the windmill in the distance. I can't see.
Not a narrowboat.
Is it a trip boat or a cruiser? In case you didn't hear that conversation, Michael's just told me that he can see a boat coming, although he's not entirely sure if it's a cruiser or the National Trust's trip boat. Either way, it's pretty narrow along here, so it could get interesting. It turns out it's the trip boat. They slow right down, but it's not exactly clear what they want us to do. In the end, Michael pulls as far to the side as he can and waves the boat past. It turns out this was actually a really good place to meet them, as there's just enough passing room. Across the water is one of the hides that you can visit when you do the Wicken Fen nature trail. We've reached the mooring at the end of the Lode now. Michael spins the boat around and backs onto the mooring.
So we're here.
We're at Wicken Fen, and it's quite lovely.
It is. This is Monk's Junction. We are technically on the Monk's Lode. That's the Wicken Lode. Up there's Wicken Fen. And yeah, was a somewhat adventurous journey. Rudely interrupted by the fact that we seem to have had at least one, if not two, SD card errors on our GoPro, meaning that
We might not have the front footage, but we'll see what happens.
yeah, hopefully we've got the majority of it, but we don't really know when the first one died, and the second one died just while I was standing here, so it didn't capture the trip boat coming back in. So the front boat, we had a trip boat. We were coming up this really, really narrow Lode.
Quick question before
yeah.
you carry on. Is it narrower than Reach Lode?
Actually narrower, yes. The banks are closer to me than they were in Reach Lode. Reach Lode had a lot of reed on either side.
Making the actual channel look narrower.
It looked quite a bit narrower, but the reality is that the boat can push through the reed.
Yeah.
The boat cannot push through the bank.
Yeah.
So, you know, on Reach Lode, I did actually have a couple of feet either side that I could just sort of shove sideways if I had to make room. On this one, when I came around the corner, I was trying to deal with the fact that there was this big island of reeds.
Yeah.
I was going around that, and then I get past that, and I look forward. I'm like, oh, good, a boat, and it's a wide one. It's a, you know, it's a sort of rowboat shaped
But with an engine.
trip boat, and it comes around the corner, and it's like obviously wider than me, not too wide at all for the stretch, but wider than me, wider than the stretch I'm in plus me. So I had to move forward and get to a point where the bank had only a small amount of reeds on it, and I could put.
Yeah, you were quite lucky that you were in a wide part, because it got narrower again, didn't it?
There were
George.
at least 4 places I passed that would be the boat equivalent of a turning of a passing section on a narrow winding back road. So you know it's not that bad. It's well worth the trip. It's really quite beautiful up here. The birds making music in the trees, and you know, various things floating and swimming and flying around is all really interesting.
Oh, I saw this little lizard thing. It was about that long, brown.
Oh, cool.
I don't know what it was.
I have no idea.
I'll show you the picture.
Yeah, show me the picture. We can find out. It's probably, you know, a lizard. And yeah, and the adventure today. Okay, it got a bit weird. We left the end of the Lode. We're going along, you know, big long straight section, no problem. I get into a place, Joe's walking along, she goes across the bridge. I get into a place where there's a whole bunch of floating rafts of weed. And I think, okay, I'm going to have to speed up to sort of push through this.
Yeah.
And I start the speed up. I don't know what happened with you, but you sort of got stuck back at the bridge for a while.
I was talking to someone, and then it was really hot. I just wasn't in like speedy walk mode.
Speedy walk mode. So I'm going along at sort of full speed, and I'm realizing that, like, you're not there anywhere. And then I see this herd of what looked at first glance to be, like, deer or something. And then I realized that it was wild horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw this big, like, muddy pit in the middle of the field and all these horses around it. And they were all gray with, like,
Browny, fawny.
black hair. And
I think it was actually a watering hole.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't obvious because I'm
You're a bit lower than
quite low. And so I'm just sort of looking over at what looks like at first deer. And then I realize they've all got manes and tails. Oh, no. They look like kind of Przeworski horses sort of thing. They're, like slightly shorter than normal sort of riding stock.
Beautiful. I wish we'd been like
Yeah, they were very pretty.
closer.
And yeah, so I'm trying to get shots of that while not running into big wads of
It was like the
blanket weed in the middle of the canal while trying to, not be distracted by these diving birds that keep coming around. And
It's just lovely.
Yeah.
You were describing it like it was bad, but it was just lovely.
It was really lovely. It's just I'm trying to do 3 different things at once, and I keep getting pinged with messages from the flood line.
Oh, yeah.
And like I'm in the middle of videotaping, and I get a thing up on the phone saying I'm getting a call from the flood line, which I know is them repeating every 15 minutes the call that I've ignored because they texted me to tell me that the floods, the flood warnings are not in effect anymore. So basically, they've texted me to tell me it's safe, and now they've called me twice to tell me that it's safe. And the entire time, I'm like, I'm not even on the river that you're going to tell me about, and I'm busy. I'm busy at the moment trying to film these things. And I keep getting pinged with emails and everything, and it's like one hand up, one hand trying to drive the boat, me trying to, and then, I'm like trying to talk to you on the radio at the same time. So
Yeah, well, I was having a lovely old time.
yeah, it's good. Yeah. Got to the junction and realized that the batteries were low, so I slowed down to let you catch up, and then found a place where I could just sort of stop the boat, run inside, change the batteries, get the cameras back out and ready to go and everything. Waited for you to get to the cock-up bridge, which is, really quite tall and thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have some problems making that turn. And I had no problem making that turn until I heard a thunking sound, a single loud thunk, and turned off the prop to realize that I'd given a pike one hell of a hit. And so he floated to the surface, and now I'm sitting there across the canal blocking the bridge, trying to reach down and pick up a pike to find out whether or not it's actually like severely injured and I need to put it out of its miseries, or
If it's okay.
or if it's okay. And it ended up being like, a good 2-foot long pike. Couldn't find any physical injuries on it. Like, no, there was a couple of scales that were damaged, but the fish itself was like moving its eyes around to look at me, and it was trying to breathe and moving its fins in a semi-coordinated fashion. So I was like, okay, well, it might have internal injuries I can't see, but if I can't just kill it because I'll have a dead pike on my hands, plus it might survive.
Yeah. And plus you don't know what pike foot owl is, so you don't know what pike foot owl is. So like if you were feeling it and you found the internal injury and it went ow.
Oh, pike for ow. Yeah, no, I don't know what a screaming pike sounds like. That's true. I have no idea. I did actually feel along its body to see if there was any like obvious sort of, rib cage damage or anything, but there was nothing. Like wherever it got hit, it didn't cut in. The prop wasn't moving very fast. It just made a hell of a thunking sound. So I think I brained a pike and gave it, a fairly heavy headache, and hopefully it recovered.
Yeah, I hope it was just a light concussion and it's just stopped telling its pike.
I mean, it's got a brain the size of a pea, so I'm not really sure that having that little thing rattled around inside of its, scully bits is necessarily as devastatingly uncomfortable as it is for me. But I still feel for that pike. I hope you're okay, Mr. Pike.
I
sincerely do. If you're not, I hope the birds are well fed.
Yeah. We continued down the Wicken Lode, and it's the one that everyone has told us about. And honestly, I don't think it's significantly nicer than the other two, personally.
I mean, I would say that Reach was, I think, the more interesting trip.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the way that it, for me, how it's sort of wide and narrow and everything. And along the way, you've got that big area in the middle where there's the owl, and
Oh, it's just
now we
stunning
know there's
view.
horses, and and there's all this stuff.
Stunning view.
And when you come up this way, it's a lovely park, and it's obviously a really nice, kind of nature reserve-y area. And I think it would be a really ideal place to have a pair of binoculars for birding.
Yeah, there's a couple of hides along the way that you can go into as well.
Yeah, one of which says extreme fire danger on the side.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what that's all about. Well, I'm actually quite certain what it's all about, but one way or another, go up there and be very careful with your fire, I suppose. But
and there's a lot more people over here as well, a lot more walkers.
Yeah, and it's a very beautiful area. I would say that Wicken Fen is definitely worth the trip. The turn is a little bit easier. The mooring is a little bit more comfortable. Not hugely, because it hasn't been kind of trimmed back at all, but we're able to pull in, and it's a nice straight section. But yeah, I guess it's kind of like, if you've only got one of the three to choose,
I'd choose Reach probably.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say probably Wicken for me, but mainly because there's the history in the form of that windmill we're going to walk up to, which is the old windmill pump, which was used to actually drain the lodes.
Oh yeah, so we haven't done that yet, so maybe it's a bit early to...
Yeah, it's a bit early to judge.
Do them all.
In terms of the actual, just countryside and the trip, this was short, pleasant. It wasn't a very long trip at all. It's a little narrow, but it's not so bad. You get up here, you turn, you park. It's quiet, except for some bugs in the trees making noise and some birds in the sky.
Yeah, I doubt we'll get some teenagers outside the boat tonight.
Yeah, don't think we'll get any teenagers outside the boat. The area is extremely pleasant, so it's worth going. I think Reach is really worth doing. Honestly, I'd say all three of them are worth doing. If you've already done the trouble of getting to that lock and coming up it, may as well do all three.
And if you're not on a boat, just the walks were spectacular. All three walks.
Yeah, definitely visit the Fens. If you come to the Fens on a boat, definitely visit the Lodes. If you come to the Lodes, visit all three of the Lodes. And don't tell everybody else, only one of them is worth visiting.
Yeah. All right, let's go and have some lunch. And
and try not to throw your back out on the way. Ouch. So, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, subscribe to Minimalist Maximal Velocity for your time-lapse videos, and click that bell if you want to get notifications. Click that bell. There we go. There we go. Wish I hadn't covered my microphone doing that. Oh, jeez. Okay.
So I've taken a little walk to the visitor centre and we decided not to go in. It's £8 each and no dogs. So Michael's thrown his back out, so he can't really walk that far. And he's the one that's really interested in the pump at the bottom of the windmill.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you can see the windmill from here. It'd be interesting to see the windmill and to read a little bit about it. But Sedge Fen, which is where the pump is, the first thing you walk past is the windmill. And for that £8, the rest of what it covers is you can walk around a large boardwalk, and there is quite a bit of wildlife apparently.
Yeah, and there's a couple of hides.
Yeah,
but I'm not.
3, I think. We
don't have any binoculars, and we're not really going to spend any time in the hides. So, I mean, it would be nice on a different day, but it's not today.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Well, yeah, because there are, there's deer, there's all sorts of birds, there's
so many
kestrels and owls and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And, there's lizards. Joe saw a common lizard today. It's definitely, sort of, if you're a National Trust member, it's absolutely worth it because, of course, then it's free. If, like us, you're not National Trust members, then there's an £8 fee per person. And that adds up pretty quick for the two of us to walk.
Without George.
Yeah, and we've arrived kind of in the middle, late afternoon. Yeah. But the main thing would be going over and seeing that pump.
Yeah. Which is what you're more interested in than me.
Yes, and 8 pounds to walk 250 feet to see a pump and come back is no worth it. Is no worth it. So we look at it from a distance, we admire, we go, yes, this is very nice, and we think about maybe getting a National Trust membership in the future. Which I've thought about every time we've been to a National Trust thing and it's been overpriced, and be like,
If you're going to go a lot, then it's worth it. But
yeah, we just don't get around to enough of those places because so many of them
they're not on the canal.
are not on the canals or near the canals, and the ones that are on the canals or near the canals are more than a year apart. So then you end up paying for the membership multiple times, and
Anyway, we're just going to sit here and enjoy the peace and quiet, and yeah.
and throwing George's bowl by slipping it out of my hand using the amount of saliva that's accumulated on it. Which is funny, but I realized that I just shot it past your face. So that wasn't the best thing for me to do. Yes. Not that way. George. George. That backfired.
Can you get out?
Come on, George.
Oh gosh, you can't get out. Come on!
Yes. Well, it's been running for 4 seconds. Well done, George. Now, when I let you go, I didn't mean for you to go in there.
And get stuck.
I said free.
You did say to go wherever you want.
No, I said you, yeah. I said you free. My fault.